welcome to Digital Jamaica Live, Carla Moore,
Yay!
Kristina Neal, and
Yay!
Anika Repole-Wilson. Hi, ladies. Welcome.
Woo!
Hi, thank
Welcome,
you for
welcome.
having me.
Definitely.
Hi
Thank you,
guys.
guys, for being here. So, Carla, I'm gonna start with you because you are known, madam,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for more talk, more talk. It's a
Yes.
you have this really awesome ability to connect on a very emotional level
Yeah.
with people, and you're very
Intimate.
open and you're very honest about how you're feeling emotionally. So we thought you'd be a perfect person to talk about this because you
Yeah.
also share your struggles, the struggles
Yeah.
that you have there. So tell us about how More Talk came about and about your own personal struggles with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Carla, are you muted? We're not hearing you.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, we see this all the time with the Zoom stuff,
Is your volume up or not hearing you?
Yeah, still not hear you.
Do you have headphones or? I'm not sure what is happening. When check your mic, Carla, to see if the mic that you are is the mic that is connected to StreamYard. In
Mm-hmm.
in in the meantime, Anika.
Yes, ma'am.
Anika, guys, is an entrepreneur who uses her platform to talk a lot about mental well-being, and you have a particular way that you go about deal with it. But Kenny, would you mind sharing your story about that with us, about your struggles with mental health?
Um, okay, so about 2 years ago, Lord, you put me on full screen, okay. About 2 years ago, actually it's no three, I decided to embrace my personal story around mental health. I think I don't know what motivated me at the very moment, but I think it came from a place of wanting more visibility for myself when I was really struggling. And when I came to a place where I felt more settled in myself and where I was going, and I felt a little bit more stable, I decided to put myself out there. And so really just was honest with my audience and put out a post that spoke about how I can recognize my triggers when my depression is flaring up and what I do to maintain productivity, which is a big challenge for many entrepreneurs if you're struggling with mental health, how you maintain productivity. So I put out those tips, and then the feedback was incredible. And ever since then, it has been an evolving journey, and I have now shifted even further into channeling the platform of entrepreneur mental wellness as being
Mm-hmm.
one of my primary pillars for my business, even going forward. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that's it in a nutshell. But overall, I do struggle with anxiety and I struggle
Yeah.
with depression. And let me rephrase that. I am surviving and thriving with anxiety and depression.
Okay. All right, Anika. And Kristina. All right. So, guys, I was scrolling on my Twitter and I saw a tweet talking about a space. And you guys know Twitter Spaces is now, within our region and stuff like that. Yeah. So, Christina, you recently held a space and invited persons to talk about their own stories and what they've faced around their own mental health journey. What motivated you to do that? Where's that coming from?
Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so one of the reasons why I decided to create that space
Yeah.
was, well, firstly, this year was a particularly difficult year for me with my mental health.
Yeah.
Just for transparency's sake, I have bipolar 2 disorder, and let me apologize for the sound in the background. I am officially diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, as well as major depressive disorder, as well as anxiety, and a whole host of other things.
Yeah.
And this year was particularly challenging for me. And the week before hosting the spaces was also particularly challenging for me.
Yeah.
And I was just tweeting about my experience, and I tend to do that. And then, I don't know, it kind of clicked to me to just host a space. And when I say host a space, honestly, the intention of the space was, as I had mentioned, it was really just about finding community with people who have these experiences. Because one of the unfortunate things is when you live with a mental illness or a mental disorder, it's not very easy to find spaces that are welcoming or understanding or empathetic or just open to have you speak about your experiences without you having to filter it. And so I said, why not just create a space that people who are experiencing these things can find community and find a bunch of people who are also experiencing these things. I was extremely surprised by the feedback that I was getting. Like, a lot of people were saying, wow, I had no idea that other people are experiencing this too. I
That
had no
feel
idea
this
that
way.
yeah, like a lot of
Yeah.
people didn't realize that there were several people who were experiencing these disorders in the same way and even in different ways. And
Yeah.
it just made it very clear to me that we just don't have that kind of community. We don't have that space where we're not looking for solutions. We're not looking for whatever. We're looking to just be
Share.
and
Yeah.
be okay with being, because there are so many spaces in our lives where we have to put on a mask, where we have to pretend like we're okay,
Yeah.
and we don't get the opportunity to just say, all right, but this is what I really face.
And Kristina, let me just say, first of all, Kadia, you're muted. But Kristina, let me just say how absolutely powerful that time was, because first of all, so many people joined, and a lot of
I was
persons were
shocked.
sharing,
I was
and
shocked.
a lot of what was repeated over and over again is, I feel seen, like somebody else feels the same way about it's not me alone, you know. So I too want to thank you for opening that up, and also for those persons who want to get a little more insight and understand, and even know how you relate, or what would help somebody in a situation. Absolutely, it was
Yeah.
awesome. It was
And
awesome.
and you know what I am happy about is that we are more open.
Yes.
These digital spaces allow us a certain level of anonymity so that we can be open. And that's one of the nature of it, because with a Twitter space you can talk, you don't have to be seen. And in that way there's a safety net there where I can speak my mind, I can say what I'm feeling without being seen, and that's powerful. But Carla don't have a problem with putting her face on the screen
Out
and say,
there.
here what happen now. Me not feel good. Me not feel sexy. What going on? I'm gonna lift up. We need to talk about that, Carla.
Yes.
But
Criteria. It must
but-
can lift me up.
But
Yes.
Carla, how did More Talk come about, and why did you take the approach to be so raw and
Yeah.
open and emotional? And what has the response to that been?
Yeah, great question. So More Talk came about by accident. I was at, oh, you can't hear me? One time for all. Praise
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Inshallah. Okay. More Talk came about by accident. I was in Canada. I had bought some shoes. They didn't fit. My feet are one size bigger than the other. Bridget's just notified me they only make size 12 in December. So I must have come here with my big foot, right? Anyways, it's a different whole other kettle of fish. And I needed to cuss in patois. And there were no Jamaicans near me. So I'm going to turn on the camera and just start cuss. And then I think because I tagged it with Family Day, because the reason I couldn't go and return the boot, which wasn't fitting me, is
Holiday.
because it was Family Day and the bus now run, I accidentally used search engine optimization. And then next thing we know, people are watching the video. And so that's how I actually started with the vlogging. And it went on and went on. And it's interesting, this space to talk about, being a digital creative and mental health is because I pulled all the way back from vlogging. So when I started talking about scandal, a lot of people started following me. And then we go over like Pink Wall or Jamaican Métis group here, whatever it name, and see them I try to decide if me a lesbian, if I'm low-key a butch, all of these types of yes, right? And so I was like, first of all, I'm not paid enough for people to be this invasive in my life. Like I don't have a bodyguard, I don't have a Julius, I don't have one of those. And so I pulled back. And then another thing is I did a vlog on the history of Jamaican homosexuality, just really looking at it within a colonial context. Child death threat, actual death threats I was receiving. People are telling me how them come at airport, come wait for me because me is what is wrong with Jamaica, and me dirty people like me why Jamaica can't prosper, etc. And so actually being out in the space like that started to significantly impact my mental health. And so I pulled all the way back. And it was years of figuring out how to re-engage. I knew that I wanted to be authentic. I also knew that I didn't want to be an Instagram or YouTube comedian. That's where people were trying to position me. Because me not no sense, right? So some of them when me say people are gonna find it funny because I just like me don't care. I listen me come from. We not really come. We're not here, right? But I didn't want that, and it was years before I actually figured out what my voice was, which is I want to be authentic and I want to help people to heal. And how I came to that was actually, I think it's like similar to what Kristina said. I'm tired of people. Like 5 people sitting in a room going through the same thing, and the whole of we feel like we're alone because everybody is so ashamed and afraid to admit to what they're going through. So I say, you know what? Me, I got take one for the team. Me will admit when me I got through, and if it resonates with you, go ahead. If it doesn't resonate with you, then I understand. And it became easier for me to do that and understand that there might be negative implications for it when I recognize it as a part of my purpose and it was linked to something bigger for me. So that's how More Talk came about, and that's why I am the way I am. Plus, this is my personality. Like I'm pretty much the same wherever you see me. I just couldn't bother for go really develop one second personality for go online. Like me lazy.
And what has the reception been like? Because
I mean, it's been good. I'm grateful. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I think I'm right in that bubble where the only people that follow me are people who actually care to follow me. My brand is not big enough that haters are following me specifically to hate, right? So just about 10,000 followers, bubble. 11,000 followers, bubble. You see, when you reach 12K, now all of a sudden people are share your things with them friend for them come bitter you. So there has been more of that happening recently, but it's pretty good. And at this point, I'm really grateful for my followers because I don't really have people following me to try to hate on me, which knock on wood, knock on everything. Please let it remain so. Amen.
And I think it's a little less about the numbers and more about the type of community that you have built because of the nature of what you share, how you share it, and it's done from an authentic place. Authenticity is a buzzword that we've been throwing around for like a while now. But really and truly, even from this conversation, Carla, I know you a long time. I will never meet yet.
Big friend.
Yeah, big friend, long time. And it's the same kind of energy that you carry. And you talk about bringing another personality. It would have you would have listen, your head would have half a chip for you for really build out a whole another personality and maintain it all this time. So
to all the ladies now, throwing it out to all of you, because you all seem to have had really great responses to these kinds of conversations that you've had. But why are you, Kristina, Anika, Carla, why are you having these conversations? What's the end goal? What are you trying to achieve? But because, Carla said about taking one for the team. When Anika, because I'm familiar with Anika's content, when Anika started talking about, I was like, Girl, are you sure?
On
You
your
want to be putting your business out here because we know how Jamaican people respond when you start talking about mental health. Them starting you're mad, and it's always a negative connotation. So
yeah.
you're being vulnerable. You're opening yourself up to a different kind of criticism, and people look at you like, do I really want to work with this person because she basically says she's crazy. Okay, so why would you guys, I guess, take that risk and put yourself out there like that? What was the goal?
You know, it's something that Carla said when she realized that this was also part of her purpose. That stuck with me. I'm here like shaking my head and taking one for the team. It, like I had mentioned before, I don't know what motivated me to speak at that point in time. I do know that in private conversations, I've always spoken to people about depression and my personal struggles and so forth. But there were consequences. I did get messages from family. Anika, you sure you want to go there? I did get even our client approached me and I think she was trying to gauge my mental health just to verify that I was.
Are you here?
Yeah. She approached, and I think it was done from such a wholesome space as well. So I wasn't offended at all, and I understood that this was her means to understand. And that even further, that pushed me again, because in talking about this and like what Kristina is doing and creating these spaces, and Carla has built such an amazing tribe and community for herself, there's this other side to it where we feel that sense of community and being seen with fellow people who are suffering in this manner. But then there's that other side of people who have can I cuss?
Yes, you can. That's fine.
They have no clue. They have no fucking clue about what a person struggles with when they're dealing with an anxiety attack versus a panic attack. They have no clue. They have no clue what it's like when you have high functioning depression or anxiety and you're able to maintain a business and run a business successfully, but they don't understand. So there was that need to also be able to educate, because there are so many people out there who are suffering in silence, and they have a family member right beside them, and they feel like there's a wall, like they can't even talk to them.
Yeah, them can't cross it.
Yeah. You're muted. Kristina, what about you? Because you said something that really struck me. In our correspondence, because when I was sending out the message, when I was sending out the request to join, your response struck me because you said mentally ill and stumbling my way through life as best as I can, and that hit me so hard. I instantly connected with that on such a powerful level, because first of all, it's your openness. You're freely admitting that, listen, something's wrong with my brain. Okay, there's shit going on up here. And that you don't have control. You're not in control of this thing. So talk to me about that, because that feeling of loss of control is one of the reasons why this thing is so difficult to deal with, and why when people say, "Oh, just get over it, you'll be fine, you'll feel better." No, man.
And to answer the first question that you had asked about an end goal, I didn't have an end goal. As I mentioned, creating the space was a very random thing. It was really random. It was in the middle of me sort of debriefing after an entire week of a very intense spiral that I had. And so it was me just tweeting about my experience, and it came to me like, maybe other people want to share their experiences, right? So there isn't I can't say no that there is a particular end goal that I have, because I'm not even sure if I do something like that again. I don't know why I was so vulnerable at that moment. I'm not usually very vulnerable. But one of my hopes really and truly is that when we're having these discussions about mental health, because it's become I want to use the word trendy here in Jamaica for what, maybe the past 3 years or so. But I want, when we're having these discussions about mental illnesses, that we be honest about it, right? And we be honest about the fact that it's not something that can immediately go away. I'm sorry, I can exercise for 3 months. No matter how much endorphins I get from exercise, I'm still going to be I'm still going to be dealing with I'm still going to be dealing with my mental health issues. I'm still going to
Yeah.
be dealing with my anxiety. No matter how many grounding techniques I use, it's still something that I have to deal with, right? But what I want us to think about is how can we, especially in terms of the labor force, right? And people working in the labor force. How can we create a labor force that accepts that I am a human being who has these issues, and therefore navigating these spaces with this issue is going to be completely different, and that I need particular kinds of support to be able to do these things, right? And I think if I guess subconsciously that was a part of my goal for more people, especially people who are in positions of power, people who are in positions of authority, to really hear and understand what Jamaican people are experiencing, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing too, everybody in a Jamaica, I walk around with trauma upon them back, right?
Oh yes.
One of my
The
friends,
preacher
Uncle,
stuff.
uncle.
yeah, me and one of my friends,
Hello.
one of the things that we constantly talk about is that to be born Jamaican is to be born into trauma. We're born into violence. So even if we're not officially diagnosed with a mental illness, all of us are walking around with some form of PTSD, because all of we either see somebody get shot or know of somebody who gets shot or somebody else who was violently murdered. So all of us are enduring this sort of thing. And so how do we go about creating spaces where people can actually navigate life and feel supported while they're managing these things, right? And again, that was one of the goals. In addition to just finding community, it's being honest about the difficulty with managing our mental and again, with mental illnesses, I think a lot of people, as you mentioned, a lot of people think that it's just a moment of sadness. Like today, you just wake up and feel sad, or you just feel nervous. You just feel nervous. No, they're actual disorders. They're things that impair your ability to do things, right? And I hoped that having these conversations where people were honest, and I'm so grateful to everybody who decided and elected to share their story, because it's
Yeah.
not easy to do.
Yeah.
For other people to understand that no, I'm not lazy. I'm not just out here procrastinating for procrastination's sake. I'm not do it
Yeah.
because it's fun. I'm not do it because it's nice. It happens because there's something going on up here. There's a
Yeah.
whole thing going on up here that is preventing me from doing things. And I really want, again, as more people begin to have these conversations, to be honest about it, and to be
Yeah.
honest about the actual challenges of it. That sometimes, genuinely, you have work to do, so the deadline at tomorrow, and you sit down and you just look on the paper. You have work to do, but you just have to do it. Are you on
Triggered.
the paper this? Are you
Hey,
on the laptop this?
hey, Christina.
5 minutes before the deadline, are you on the paper this?
You have to go come off right here now, because
Yeah,
me no know we
that
had show.
is-
Me no know we had show con over here, so.
We just need to be honest about it. Like, that is me. I will have something due in 5 minutes, and I mean this, I look on it, because there's this anxiety that is eating at the back of you, and it's telling you a lot of things. It's telling you you're not good enough. It's telling you that you don't know how to do this, even if it's something where you did do 50 times before. You don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And the loop of thoughts keeps
Keep
happens.
going. So I know, Carla, you are a lot of things, and you establish a brand in this space as a healer. A part of what you do is, how do you? What's some advice you could give to persons who are struggling like this, in that capacity? What would you say to them? What are some of the things? Because I know you also have some programs that you've created and that you run. So share some tips and some advice with us about, okay, so now that we've established that we're all crazy,
Mm.
that we're all dealing with some kind of mental health issues. Some of us
Mm.
so more severe than
And
others.
others, yeah.
Some of us are more open to accepting it because acknowledgement is another problem, but some of us are more open to accepting it than others. But in the privacy of your local space watching this,
Mm.
what would be some advice you would give persons who are struggling?
Some advice that I would give people who are struggling. The first piece of advice that I would give anybody who is struggling is the first piece of advice I would have wanted to give to myself, which is take time with yourself. Take time with yourself. Understand that if you are dealing with a mental health concern, you are experiencing legitimate difficulties, and it's okay for you to be gentle on yourself. If you have been living with it for some time, it's possible that the world has been very hard on you. If you had to go through high school while living with depression or anxiety, then it's possible your teachers and your parents, in trying to motivate you, were very hard on you. They were probably very critical of you, and they probably said some very debilitating things to you, and you're probably in the habit of talking to yourself in that same voice. Get up and do
Wait.
it. Why you make a big deal out of everything for? No,
Yeah.
man, you just make everything get it on. You're softy and you're weak. It's okay for you to release that voice. You can accomplish the things you want to accomplish in life alongside your mental illness without being that brutal with yourself. The other thing that I would say to people is, often we think, when is the right time for me to go and get some support? Is it bad enough for me to go and get some support?
Hey.
Reframe that question to
Yeah.
yourself. Do you
Yeah.
deserve support in life generally? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you deserve support in life generally, then I suggest that you take the same approach to your mental health, which is,
Amen.
it doesn't have to get bad enough for you to get some support. All of us need support just going through life. That's the point of the whole Golden Girls opening theme song, right? So go and get some support. The other thing that I've been doing with myself that is useful is tapping, EFT tapping, like the emotional freedom technique. You can find practitioners. You can also probably find some videos that you can check out if you want for yourself. Um, and I think probably the big thing that I would say is, and it links back to my first point, is if you have a mental illness, go and get the treatment that you need. Be be clear that you deserve treatment and care that matches you, and go and seek that out. If you are looking for something that you can use to support yourself on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment, then one of the things you can try is this thing called the rain meditation. It was created by Tara Brach. And it's basically the basis of radical compassion. So when you experience a feeling, whether it is anxiety, or you're sad, or you just feel flustered and confused, or you feel triggered by something, some trauma has come up, and an emotion is happening and it's big. RAIN. Recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. So sometimes when feelings come up, we immediately want to get away from them because they make us feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Slow down. Like, this is your lifetime, and it's okay for you to spend it paying attention to yourself. It's absolutely okay. So when a feeling comes up, okay, I need to pay attention to myself, recognize it. I feel something, I feel a discomfort, this conversation is bringing up something, and then allow it. It's not going to kill you. The feeling is not going to kill you, right? Allow yourself to experience a feeling. Investigate it. Get curious about the feeling. When this feeling comes up, how old do I feel? How long have I had this feeling? What was the first time I started feeling like this? What does it remind me of? And then, and this is a kicker, nurture. When you experience difficult feelings, heavy emotions, when you are uncomfortable or anxious or afraid, the thing that you need most of all is softness. You need nurturing. Whatever is the treatment you would have wanted to receive when you were a child and you had big emotions that you didn't know what to do with, give that to yourself. But above all, I said this to people, please don't feel like you don't deserve to seek out care until things are drastic and terrible. You deserve to seek out care as a matter of being a human who is alive.
Wow.
Awesome. Wow. Just, that was, you want to move here, write down the rain method, because I was like, Google, me and you later. Right. But Anika, thank you so much for that, Carla. Anika, you have an alternative method. And Carla, we're going to come back to you because I know you have some programs that we can access. Because guys, Carla says get the care, but care is not readily accessible to everyone. Whether it's financial reasons why care is, and it's a taboo. Kristina says it's become fashionable in the last couple of years to talk about
in
mental
certain
health, and
spaces.
all of a sudden there's practitioners popping up. But going to a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever, one in and of itself is a traumatic experience, especially if the person doesn't know what they're doing. And a lot of it is a lot of our psychological care Jamaica is very religion based, and that's also a problem for a lot of people, because Jesus not going to fix your bipolarism. Yeah, that's just okay. And that's another issue. And then money, you accessing the care might be problematic for you as well, because it can get expensive, especially if treatment is an ongoing thing. Plus there's medication that you may have to take to balance out some of your chemical imbalances. So there is a problem with access to care. But Anika, you have a very novel way that you go about treating your anxiety and depression. Talk to us about that, because I've tried your method and I can tell you that it worked for me, except I wasn't consistent because I have anxiety problems. You see the levels. Anika, talk to us.
So hold on, because I want to touch on what Carla had said with the RAIN method. And I didn't know that I was doing the RAIN method, but the thing is, I think people may hear this and think that it's kind of like a, step, like it's just one kind of trajectory. It's like it's linear. I don't think it is. And I think you'll fluctuate between the two. And for me, I think I was doing the RAIN method for years, until I literally going through the process of learning how to recognize what was going on and allowing it. That was also a big thing. And I think that's one commonality that I have heard from other folks who suffer with mental illness, that there's a need to almost honor what is happening and being able to start witnessing it over time. And digging in, like Carla said, into like investigating where this is coming from. And for just to emphasize again, I was on pharmaceuticals. I was medicated. I did have to go to therapy, and I recognized the need to go to therapy. And thankfully, I was able to afford therapy at the time when I needed it. What I can say is that it was probably one of the most valuable investments that I've ever made in myself. And every now and again, I still do a check-in. I'll call my therapist. Hey, Karen, I need some time. We need a check-in, and we'll move forward. But with that said, I didn't really want to be on medication for an extended period of time. And with the allowance and permission and guidance of my doctor, I was told that, hey, let's try some alternatives. So I decided to turn to cannabis. And with time, I found that I was able to wean myself off of pharmaceuticals. And I now utilize CBD. I smoke both medicinally and recreationally, and I have found a nice balance in there with my dosing. I think that's probably one of the greatest challenges that someone may have when they start utilizing cannabis for things like anxiety or depression. And it may not work for everybody. Big disclaimer right there. But for the most part, it has worked for me. I haven't been on pharmaceuticals in almost 4 years, which is a huge deal. And I have to use CBD every single day. So that has been a turning point for me to be able to recognize what my body needs. And I think there was even a little bit of pressure for myself when I realized I don't want to have to be dependent on anything. Like, I should be normal. Like, this is not fulfilling. And then it came to a point of acceptance and realizing that, hey, this is just something that my brain needs. Like, my brain functions in a different way. It's what makes me me. It's what makes me unique. It's what gives me the compassion and the empathy that I have for other people. It's just a matter of, okay, it's time to kind of give that to myself. It's time to love myself as unconditionally as I love my family. And a lot of the times that means being selfish, and that means taking care of me first. But there is this analogy, especially as a parent, that, you know, when you go on the airplane, when we do end up traveling again at some point, they tell you put your mask on first. You have to put your mask on first. And that's kind of how I have just lived my life. Like, I have to put my mask on first. Have to. And listen, y'all, we will fuck up a lot. But it's like, and that's where the anxiety and the depression and all the mental fucked upness comes from as well, because then you start the negative self-talk when you screw up.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Shit, I should have done it. And you keep ruminating. What I will add to Carla's method is, for me, what helped is mindfulness and being present. And that practice of mindful meditation, which is very simple. It's not which I love, but it's very practical. It's a practical approach of just figuring out a way to be present, because guess what? If you have that negative self-talk that is always there, you become a lot more cognizant when that voice starts chatting to you and telling you all of that nasty shit. And you can call it out. Yeah. And you can start reframing your own negative self-talk.
Awesome. I mean, you ladies,
listen to me.
We need a session, Lord. We need a session. Kristina, what are some of the
path?
but Anika, you had a podcast and everything. What happened to that? We need it back.
It's coming back. Carla was actually one of my guests.
Yes, I think it was called While We Were High. Is it While We Were High?
While We Were High. It's still there. The URL is still there. One of my first guests.
I need to go and find
my
out.
therapist. I interviewed my therapist as my first guest. And you can get the URL. It's whilewewerehigh.com. It'll come back. It'll be back.
Okay, good, because that was you were talking to CEOs and business, women in business, people in business who use cannabis
who use cannabis in some form or another.
All right, cool. Kristina, what are some of the coping methods that you can share with persons to manage when they are going through a rough patch like you did recently?
To be honest, I try to steer clear of offering any sort of advice to anyone, because the fact of the matter is that as much as we might have the same mental health conditions and we might have similar experiences, everybody is different and everybody's response to things are different. So I can share a few of what I do, which, let me be honest with you, I'm not consistent with any of these. I'm not, because sometimes they just don't feel accessible within the moment, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that's been consistent with my life that I didn't know was useful until more recently was writing. I've always been writing, always been journaling. I've had so many diaries and journals throughout my life, and I find it important because I'm somebody that lives in her head, right?
Ooh, child.
Always there. There are always 10 things going on. And so I find it really useful to sometimes let all of that out, because sometimes I'm thinking some really messed up things. You can't say that to the people where you love, right? So sometimes it makes more sense for me to just write it and get it all out. Sometimes extremely unfiltered, extremely raw. And then what that does for me sometimes, again, is that it allows me to kind of make connections. Yeah, it helps me to process, and it helps me to navigate those thoughts. Why did that come up? What was the thing that triggered it? Is it possible that I made that situation up in my mind and that it didn't actually go like that, you know? Another thing that I'd say was really useful, and this only happened, I'd say maybe the tail end of last year, is finding a community of people who really love and care for you. And I know that that's a privilege, and a lot of people don't have access to that or are able to do that. Basically, when you have a group of people who are committed to loving you, and committed to supporting you, it makes navigating these moments a lot easier, because we know that our mental illnesses can oftentimes make us isolate and just feel like we're the only person in the world and nobody gives a shit about me. I just me and I just me one. I'm just have to do this for myself. At least mine does. So having a group of people who are completely committed to you and committed to loving you, committed to supporting you, and also committed to reminding you that you're not here alone and that you have somebody to carry to walk with you through this has been super important and super helpful. I would say go to therapy, but I try not to push that. And let me tell you why. And it's nothing against therapy. I think therapy is great. It's just that I know the difficulties with one, finding a therapist that's good for you. And also therapy is expensive, really expensive. And psychiatry is expensive, as you mentioned before. Psychiatry is really expensive in Jamaica. And I feel like we need to have a discussion about that, about how we can get community care to be a thing, because it's just way too expensive to go to a psychiatrist. So I was on medication for a while and I stopped, mostly because it's really expensive. But also, I think like Anika, I don't want to be on this for the rest of my life. And with my mental health condition, that is the thing, right? With bipolar disorder, it's a lifelong thing. You always have to be on medication. But I also didn't like how I felt on medication. Unlike Anika, tried alternatives. I won't speak all of them on this podcast, but I tried alternatives, and those have been useful. So yeah, just to reiterate, I'd say writing was really helpful for me because it helps me to process my thoughts, and also having a community that I can lean in on, a community where I know that I can say, listen, today on my day, you're not gonna get nothing from me. I just me this today. And them going, that's okay. I'm still here. I'll always be here. When you're ready for come out from under your shell, I'm still gonna be here for you. And that's been really critical and really important for me.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Carla, we are going to close out with you because I know you have some programs that you have that persons can also access as an alternative to formal care. Because as I say, formal care is not accessible for many reasons,
A
some
lot
of
of
which I've
persons.
already listed. But there are so many other reasons why persons just not interested in going to formal care. So what are some of the programs that you have that we can access, and how can we access them?
Yeah, thanks for that. So I am a certified life coach, and as a certified life coach, I'm certified in solution focused coaching, neuro linguistic programming, all of that type of stuff. So the
Neurolinguist,
ways,
what? You
yeah,
have to explain that.
it's like brain training. It's like brain
Ah,
training, right? So you know how some of us we will kind of revert to particular ways of thinking, of viewing the world, and a lot of them are self-defeating. You can train your brain away from that, basically by interrogating your thoughts. So there are different techniques that you can use, including basically calling out your own thought as a lie and being like, "That's not facts, and here is why you're not a truth." Right? Um, and these are the types of things that the people like coach have to do. Like, them have to look on them thoughts and be like, lie, 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 and start again. So, so folks can do one-on-one coaching with me. And I find that for a lot of my coaches, the self-esteem coaching program actually forms the basis of it, because most of us come in with either low self-esteem or a lot of negative self-thought, or a lot of self-talk, or a lot of self-defeating thoughts that actually stand in the way of us achieving the things we want to achieve, or just exacerbate things that would lead us to feel badly or not function at our optimal level. And at this point, I'm also in the process of developing some group coaching, because I'm aware that folks need different types of care, because I'm aware that cost is a consideration. And I want to make sure that it's as accessible as possible. So I think within like about a month or so, you should see some of my group coaching programs dropping. For folks who are looking to spend a little time with themselves, just in a like the privacy of them yard where nobody can see them, they can do, if they go to my page, my link tree, I have a self-loving self-audit. And it's really just an opportunity for you to sit with yourself and reflect on what you have achieved so you can move forward. Why? A lot of us feel like we're not doing nothing. And it contributes to us feeling terribly in our days. We feel like we're not achieve nothing. We feel like everybody life will do better than free life. We feel like say all of the work we run up and down, it is not leading anywhere. And so sometimes actually forcing yourself to sit down and look at what you achieved can significantly shift your relationship with yourself in terms of you as a person who achieves things. But more than that, it's actually so many of us are running after a life that we're not sure we want anymore, because we haven't actually thought about how the life we are moving towards connects with who we actually are. And that's one of the things that I think is core to us feeling good about ourselves. If people want to contact me, they can contact me at Coach Carla Moore at gmail.com. And if you want coaching stuff specifically, they can find me over at Caribbean Life Coach. So generally, me dey over more talk JA, I create a bag of drama. But if you want coaching things specifically, you can go to Caribbean Life Coach and find them over there.
All right, ladies,
Love
thank
it.
you guys so much. No, we had an extended conversation because
just
there's
so
so
much
much
to
more I want to talk
explore.
about, and we
Yeah.
just couldn't break. And I'm thinking now that we definitely need a part two, Kristina. Maybe not necessarily a Twitter Spaces, but a bigger conversation.
I've been thinking about it,
Yeah.
especially because I think it's also important to explore the other mental illnesses that exist and
Yeah.
giving those
Yeah.
people spaces. And Carla actually did this last
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
and that was really great.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe.
Let's get together and hopefully we can collaborate and do something, because it's just so necessary. And sometimes, these things are therapeutic for us as well, because myself, I also have a serious anxiety issues which sometimes prevent me from leaving my yard for months
Listen.
at time.
Listen,
I
in this-
have it's a situation where my father have to call me every day and go, did you open the door and go outside today? Because I won't even open my front door to go outside. That's how bad it can get for me. And then I sit down in here and I don't know who said it, ruminating and thinking about all the things I've not done and how I'm getting older and I'm not accomplished, and these things imprison you, and it has physically imprisoned me in my own home. So this is definitely something I want to explore more about, because
Yeah.
it's only since acknowledging that I actually have a problem,
Yeah.
and not just it because Carla said it, you grow up hearing yes, lad man, you're soft, get over it. I grew up with that in some ways as well, and you internalize that and you
Yeah.
think, okay,
You just need
you
to get
don't-
over it.
yeah, you don't see it as a problem.
Yeah.
You see it as just you not being enough and
Yeah.
you not being good enough, or you whatever, until you start realizing that actually there's nothing I can do about it. It's just how my brain is. That's
Yeah.
just how I am. And I
Yeah.
need to get help for it. And Anika talked about understanding your triggers. Jesus, the moment I started, first it takes acknowledgement, and then trying to figure out, okay, what are some of my triggers, and then learning to avoid them, or when you can't avoid them, learning to work through them in healthy ways.
Yeah.
Healthy ways, because
Not destructive. Yep.
some of
Next
my unhealthy ways of dealing with this is sexual promiscuity, to be quite honest with you. And I see Carla said something. You muted, Carla. You're muted.
Unmute.
No, sorry, I was saying facts because sex feel nice. And the
Yeah.
little sex can make you feel better when other things are going.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, it does. And as I heard when you said something, you said something Carla, when you're saying masturbate, because sometimes it's the feel good part of the sex that you're interested in, not necessarily the person.
The
And
other
then
part.
you go and you do that. So many other things come
can
along with
happen.
that, and then it is such a vicious cycle, because then you're bringing these additional issues on top of the issues they already are. It's like, now they just want somebody.
See, Anir, I look on you. Anir, I look on you, want your attention. Like,
Yeah.
when there's a for folks who like might want resources or like want to like see other people in Jamaica or from the Caribbean talk about their experiences, they can look at my IGTV. Kristina was talking about it. I did an Upful series that was all about demystifying mental health. So for like people with bipolar, borderline personality, ADHD, like the whole like they can watch it on IGTV. And a lot of people them from bipolar come and say they look at bipolar or something, make you want to have enough sex. I mean, I said then see it then.
That's how it manifests.
When you're hypomanic, that's one of the ways that it can manifest.
Yes, and it even brings about intense feelings of loneliness, and that has been an issue for me of late. I feel like, oh my God, I'm gonna die alone and nobody's gonna love me, and I'm not gonna have a husband, and I'm gonna have man, and I'm not gonna have children. I don't even want children. So when you get into that state, all of a sudden, my womb, it's like, bitch.
You're talking about triggers, and I would just want to share one of my personal observations. When I have a hard time choosing an emoji in response to just a simple text message,
something wrong.
Random. It seems really simple and random, but that's actually one of my telltale triggers. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Do I do the smiley with the tears, or do I do the sideways smile? And I start overthinking this shit.
Yeah.
That's when I know that something is happening. Yeah. So even those little things, like start paying attention to where you
and in the process, getting to know yourself a lot better. It's such a fulfilling process. But listen, I could go on. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, we really could continue for the entire morning. As you would have shared, Kada, you share your experience. For me, I felt I caught myself holding my hands a certain way, and and I'm just like, okay, Monique, all right, so we know you're triggered. Okay.
Yeah.
But as you said, Kay, we need to find a way to kind of continue this conversation. And we have your contact, so we'll be in touch. All right,
Thank
guys.
you so much, ladies. Really appreciate you.